So today we ask the question, have the Greeks finally had enough? Okay, I think nobody could doubt for a second that since this latest migrant crisis has enveloped Western Europe, particularly the EU, since 2015, Greece has been in the forefront of all of that. They've been getting the brunt of the new arrivals, and they have just had waves and waves and waves of immigrants basically fetching up there, arriving on their islands, of which they have many, and making their way inland. Now, it's fair to say that a lot of these migrants have just moved on through. They've just arrived there, fetched up there, and they didn't want to stay there. Nice and all, a place as it is, and plenty of us Irish go there for holidays, as you'll be aware. A lot of these people had no interest in staying in Greece. They didn't want to see the Acropolis. They didn't want to see all of the nice, wonderful architecture and ancient artifacts that Greece has to offer. They just wanted to go to more, shall we say, affluent countries, particularly Germany. But that hasn't altered the fact that Greece has suffered and suffered badly from this massive wave of immigration, because it puts a strain on pretty much everything. I mean, apart from the societal issues, it puts a strain on the government resources, it puts a strain on hospitals, it puts a strain on the police, it puts a strain on everything. Pretty much Greece was buckling under this and got bugger all support from the EU for their trouble, which they complained about, and I think they were just shouting at the wind, because it seems the EU wasn't really listening, or if it was, it wasn't listening that well. So now we have this latest debacle, this latest catastrophe in Afghanistan, which the Americans have managed to bungle in a way that is barely comprehensible. You're thinking, if I put a group of 5 or 6 year old kids in a room and told them to come up with an exit plan for Afghanistan, even if they didn't know what Afghanistan was, they'd probably come up with a better plan than what we've seen actually take place. It boggles the mind. Anyway, so that's a complete and utter horror show. And the general thinking is that it's going to lead to another 2015 situation when we had millions upon millions of immigrants just moving north, or moving west. And so Greece is still really struggling economically, and it's struggling to try and dig its way out of the abyss, the financial abyss that it's found itself in, and it's now bracing itself for what may be ahead, for what may be coming. Now, I saw a headline the other day, and it's just in the course of things popping up here and there, and it was about new border wall completed, and I think, that Trump, he's at it again. And then I remembered, no, Trump, there's no Trump. Trump's gone, so it's not Trump. So what was it? It was the Greeks. And it turns out the Greeks have been busy. They had some run-ins with Turkey, as you'll no doubt be aware, and it seems every now and again when Turkey wants to piss off the EU or piss off the Greeks, or both, they just basically open the floodgates and let a lot of migrants just flood on over the border and into Greece, and i.e. Into the EU as a whole. So the Greeks were kind of getting a bit peeved with this on-off switch that Erdogan seemed to have, and this kind of stick that he was holding over them, which he would give them a belt of every now and again. So they, it turns out, did a Trump and built a border wall. So my question today is, have the Greeks finally had enough? And will this wall even do any good? Will it make any difference? Well, let's see what the good and the great media boffins and heads and luminaries have to say about it. Let's hop on over here to Euro Weekly, the People's paper, it says here. So, well, I'm a people, so let's see what we have here now from Ron Howells. Greece rapidly completes 40-kilometre border wall extension to deter potential Afghan migrants. Right, so they're doing a bit of Trump. There's a picture there. You can see that kind of a little. It looks very similar to what I've seen. The photos and the videos I've seen in the mix about the American border wall. It seems to be a similar kind of construction. It must be the go-to kind of model for modern border walls there. But this one is not in Texas. This one is in Greece, and it's on the border with their old sparring partner, Turkey. So there you go. Greece rapidly completes the 40-kilometre border wall extension, and it's in expectation or dread, if you like, of a new massive wave of these immigrants, because basically, yes, there'll be people saying, oh, we have to help the Afghans and it's a terrible situation and the Taliban are a bunch of knobs and all this, but as with the Syrians, what you often find is suddenly everybody's an Afghan. So like, you could say, okay, fair enough, we've got to do our thing for the Afghans and it's a terrible situation, so war, just like we did with the Syrians, but then suddenly everybody was a Syrian. It was people showing up basically as Syrians with a Pakistani accent, or they possibly had a Mongolian accent, or they were probably very, very dark-skinned a la Sub-Saharan Africa, but they were also Syrian. So you see how this goes. So suddenly it's not just about the Afghans, it's about pretty much everybody who sees themselves or identifies as Afghan. That's how these things generally play out. Now, Greece, let's read on. Greece has rapidly completed, we got that bit, this 40-kilometre stretch of border wall. Now, Greece announced the completion of the fence on its border with Turkey on Friday. This is just recently, at the end of August 20th, and said that a new surveillance system has been put in place to stop possible asylum seekers from trying to reach Europe following the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. Well, that's good, because you're going to need a bit of surveillance, cameras and all that sort of thing, because you can't just have a line of lads standing there day and night. So handy to have a few cameras and lads watching the cameras. Then you see a few lads making a beeline for the thing, or trying to throw ropes over it, or pull a ladder up against it, or whatever method is normal for these people. And then the lads see in the camera and they say, right, you go down there and tell them to feck off and apply the right way. Don't be putting a ladder up and trying to get over the wall. Write us a letter, sort of thing, and we'll get back to you. Recent events, let's continue. Recent events in Afghanistan have fueled real fears in the EU of a repeat of the 2015 refugee crisis, when nearly 1 million people fleeing war and poverty in the Middle East and beyond crossed to Greece from Turkey before travelling north to wealthier states, with many claiming asylum in the UK. Well, most of them, I think, in fairness, were going to Germany. But having said that, look, we got them even here in Ireland. I mean, the bulk was going there or intending to go there, but these things this all drifts, so they end up all over the place, and Greece got more than its fair share. And I know some of its small islands, those lovely picturesque islands in the Mediterranean, were just basically flooded, They just couldn't cope, and the whole thing was getting out of hand. And then suddenly they didn't want to be there, and then they couldn't get off the island, and then they were burning down the accommodation they had, and it was just an absolute horror show for the local residents. So let's continue. Greece was on the front line of that crisis, the 2015 crisis, and has said its border forces are on full alert to make sure it does not become Europe's gateway once again. Quote, the Afghanistan crisis had created possibility for migrant flows. We cannot wait passively for the possible impact. Our borders will remain safe and inviolable. Quote, Citizens Protection Minister Michalis Chrysochoidis. Sure, I'm butchering that, but that's what it says here. She said that after visiting the region of Evros on Friday with the Defence Minister and the head of the armed forces. Chrysochoidis said the extension to the existing 12.5 kilometre fence had been completed in record time, and as well as a high-tech automated electronic monitoring system. And so I've heard from various sources that it's very hard to get anything done in Greece when you want it to be done. It will get done, but eventually. But it seems on this one occasion they have managed to do something of a rarity, and that is complete a project, a building project, extremely quickly and extremely efficiently. And maybe that's a sign for the future, a good sign for the future for Greece. Maybe that'll become the norm. Not sure if that's the case though. Right, migrant arrivals to Greece, let's read on, either by land or by sea, have overall slowed down to a trickle since 2016, when the EU agreed a deal with Turkey to stem the flows in exchange for financial support. So basically the EU, and in particular the Germans, I think they just bunged the Turks a few bob and said, listen lads, don't be playing silly buggers, can you close the gates? Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis and Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan discussed Afghanistan on the phone on Friday, with Erdogan saying Afghanistan and Iran, a key route for Afghans into Turkey, should be supported or a new migration wave was, quote, inevitable. A statement from his office said. And I think that's really my own personal view. That is the way to address this problem or attempt to solve it. You have to support these countries and make, let them build their infrastructure, build their societies, so that really there's no need for massive amounts of people to leave, or at least you take away the viable reason that they will give. You say, because they're all going to say, listen, I'm fleeing war and persecution and all of these other bad things. But what it actually is, when you really drill down to the nub of the matter, is they just want to get to a better place, which is not kind of the way it's supposed to work. Earlier this week, on Wednesday, Greek Migration Minister Notis Mitarachi said that the country was working on evacuating EU citizens and Afghans who worked with the EU, but Greece, quote, does not accept to be the gateway for irregular flows into the EU. While speaking on Sky TV, Mitarachi directed refugees to seek aid in Turkey, I'm sure everyone loved that, and other countries to the east of Greece. Basically anywhere but Greece, who could provide initial protection where necessary. It has in the recent past also stopped people from entering its waters, though it denies widely reported allegations of so-called pushbacks. So that's where Greece is really, really vulnerable. It's got the whole coast. It's got all these little picturesque islands dotted all over the place, and they're just an open goal. They're an open goal. I'm not sure if this wall is going to really, it's going to help obviously with the Turkish end of things, and it'll probably put pay to Erdogan just basically opening the gates every now and again and letting hordes of God knows who from God knows where just romp into Greece. So that's probably going to stop that. Let's go over to CNN. What have they got to say? Greece finishes wall with Turkey amid fears of the migrant crisis. So there we go. Same thing. 25-mile wall, 40-kilometre wall, and it's basically on foot of the Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan. We know that much. So the Greek government ministers toured the fence on Friday and said the overthrow of Afghanistan's government gave greater urgency to their effort to reduce the flow of migrants across its borders. CNN, we know it was at the centre of the last crisis. We get that. And they didn't thank the EU for all the great help that they gave them in that crisis. Thanks very much, EU, but no thanks, said the Greeks. Must do better next time. And they're hoping there won't be a next time. And that's why they're building walls like this. So, Erdogan, there was that Prime Minister to Prime Minister kind of conversation, and then in a television interview the day before, Erdogan urged the European Union to assist refugees from the country, quote, if a transitional period cannot be established in Afghanistan, which we know it can't because the Taliban just steamrolled the whole damn thing and the Americans legged it like shit from a goose. They couldn't get out fast enough. The pressure on migration, said Erdogan, which has already reached high levels, will increase even more, and this situation will pose a serious challenge for everyone, said Erdogan. Yes, the unapologetic stance of the US President Joe Biden, greatest military tactician ever, said no one, who faces criticism for the United States' chaotic, that's putting it lightly, removal of troops in Afghanistan, has dismayed leaders in Europe who are now left bracing themselves for a possible refugee emergency. I don't think Biden cares. It's not his problem. Thousands of Afghans have attempted to leave the country the past week since the Taliban completed a staggeringly fast takeover of power and brought to an end 2 decades of US involvement in the country. Crowds of desperate locals have gathered at Kabul's airport in search of a place on Western military flights. Those unable to leave face a return to the repressive Taliban regime, which banished women from its streets and workplaces and used the death penalty for offences including female adultery, and that's a bit harsh, homosexuality and the rejection of Islam, when last in power between 1996 and 2001. I don't think there's going to be any Pride Month in Afghanistan next year. Just a guess, but I think we're fairly certain of that. There won't be any rainbow flags flying on any of the various US or whatever embassies next June. It is our decision to defend and secure our borders, Chris Okoidis said. Our borders will remain secure and inviolable. We will not allow uncontrolled movements and people blah-de-blah. We know that. We got that from the last time. Even before the Taliban took Afghanistan, the pandemic had worsened the migrant crisis. A deal was struck between Turkey and the EU. They bunged them a load of money. We know that. And basically the Turks took the money and said, fair enough, we'll keep the gates closed for now. The two countries share a border at the northeastern tip of Greece, which is frequently a destination of asylum seekers who travel through Western Asia. There are also numerous routes into Greece by sea. So this wall, is it going to be worth a shite? I mean, I know it's going to do something in one way, but will it stop the problem? We'll have to wait and see on that. Last year, several migrants on boats told CNN that they were pushed back from Greece, an accusation that Athens has repeatedly denied. UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, urged Greece to investigate reports of pushbacks at the country's border. Good luck with that, lads. I don't think they'll be in too much of a hurry to investigate. What's this? EuroCTIV. Okay. Greece says EU not ready for new migrant crisis as Afghan conflict grows. Who's this lad? Right, that's Greek Minister of Migration. Notice Mitarachi as he arrives at a press conference with the EU. He's looking fairly serious there, doesn't look too happy, and I wouldn't be happy if I had his job either. Right, the European Union, let's read a bit of this, is not in a position to deal with a repeat of the migrant crisis in 2015 and must try to keep people from fleeing the growing conflict in Afghanistan, a Greek Mr. Notis Mitarachi said on Wednesday, that's the 11th of August. Mitarachi, who last week co-signed a letter with ministers from 5 other EU countries saying deportations of all failed asylum seekers should continue instead of despite the fighting, said ending such returns would send the wrong message. So basically, himself and 5 other governments said, look, okay, it's a bad lot, it's a bad situation, but we can't just basically tear up the rule book and just stop doing anything at all. We've got to keep going, because otherwise people are getting the message that we don't give a shite and it's all good and it's a fairly free and easy situation. Do what you like, lads, which is not really the message you want to be sending out. He says, this is Mitarachi, it would lead more people trying to leave and come to the European Union, he told Reuters. However, the unity of the 6 signatories had already crumbled by Wednesday as both Germany and the Netherlands said they would not carry out deportations for the moment. Well done there, EU. No standing together there. Basically, after signing this whole, pact, this whole agreement, 2 of the signatories just said, feck it, what the hell? And it was all a bit of a joke. Carry on. We're not going to bother doing that, what we said we do the other day, because the EU is such a unified bunch of countries. Right, Mitarachi said the EU should offer more support to help Turkey mitigate the pressures of more arrivals from Afghanistan, which is basically just bribe Turkey to kind of keep them there, or at least not let them go any further. See how that works out. Absolutely not. Who's this a quote from? Absolutely not. The EU is not ready and does not have the capacity to handle another major migration crisis, he said. This is Mitarachi, knowing that the Greeks are going to get another big bang of it. If it happens, they'll get hammered. Greece was at the front line of Europe's other crisis 6 years ago, as nearly 1 million people, mostly from Syria, Afghanistan and Iraq, and countless other countries, Sudan, Mongolia, Pakistan, pick a number. They were all Syrians that year. Landed on its outlying islands after the dangerous crossing from Turkey's shores on inflatable boats. Taliban fighters have made sudden strong gains, and we know that they basically just overran the whole place. Many EU states are worried that the developments in Afghanistan could trigger a replay of the crisis of 2015, when more than 1 million people, we know that, came and paid a visit, and then had no intention of ever going home. We are concerned about the implications of the deterioration in Afghanistan, and that's why it's very critical and very important for the European Union to be proactive in preventing such a crisis, Mitarachi said. Well, I like your optimism there, Mitarachi, but I think you're pissing again the wind there. I don't think they care. I think it's just every man for himself at this stage. When push comes to shove with the EU, they're full of great speeches, and they're full of great flowery language, and full of great ideas and lofty goals and peace, love and understanding to all peoples, but when it comes to the brass tacks of actually sorting things out, it's an absolute catastrophe. They don't care. They don't care. And once again, I have this unerring apprehension that the Greeks are going to be left holding the bag, and that essentially it's going to be another. I can't. Erdogan, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him, unless they bung him a few billion. I think he's just going to basically open the gates and let them test that wall. He'll say, listen lad, the wall's over that way, you test that all you want, and we don't mind. Meanwhile, there'll be rubber dinghies showing up on Lesbos and all these other places that are already still trying to cope with massive influxes of people who just show up with the clothes on their back, and of course a modern mobile phone. Funny how that works. So I don't know, is this whole border wall thing just a load of smoke? Is it going to do any good? Will it make any difference? Or are the Greeks just going to have to, just like the last time, take one for the team?